we've got a few more signings to dive into.
This offense continues to evolve as the season goes on.
Welcome into Bucs Insider, presented by Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Bree Dix here. And man, we have another tough one to talk about, but we have some good news to balance it a bit. That's what we like to do on Insider, especially
Why don't you tell us about
during the holidays. We want to start with the good news before we dive into it.
So what do we got?
What do we got for good news? We have some Pro Bowl selections, and love to see guys get their individual recognition, even if the team success isn't what we want right now. That Antoine and Tristan are both going to the Pro Bowl, and I'm so excited for them. And then we also have alternates, Baker and Jamel, so there is a chance we have as many as 4 Bucs, but as few as 2 going here to the Pro Bowl. So excited to see those guys get their flowers.
Yeah, and Tristan is actually voted in as a quote-unquote starter, which practically speaking doesn't mean much when we're talking about flag football. But
right. Particularly when you're an offensive lineman.
But it means, that's what I'm saying. But it means that he that does mean he was one of the top 2 vote getters in the NFC. And also, it's his 5th Pro Bowl.
It's incredible.
He's only been in the league 6 seasons.
Yeah.
5 Pro Bowls, that's already the most by any offensive lineman in team history. And among all offensive players, he's one behind Mike Evans and Mike Allstott for the most in 6 seasons.
Well, and I think almost even more impressively is that he missed, 4 games due to injury and still made enough of an impact to make.
Yeah, and obviously he's built up a good reputation and some
his
momentum,
peers,
which helps him. Antoine, this is his second trip because we forget in 2023 when he was first team Associated Press All-Pro with one of the great safety seasons we've ever seen, did not make the Pro Bowl, which made no sense at the time.
Of course not.
He's made it twice now, so that's first safety since John Lynch to do that.
That's a big deal. And again, congrats to them. Thanks to all the Bucs fans who voted for them as well, and can't wait to see them participate in all the Pro Bowl shenanigans. All right, so now the other sort of good news, the Bucs are still in playoff contention. I know that because of what's happened in recent weeks, it would be easy to not feel as good about where they're sitting playoff-wise, but they're still in it.
As Baker Mayfield just said, obviously they would love to be in a different place. They would love to have locked the division up by now. But even after that loss to Carolina, the Buccaneers are actually, to use a phrase I'm not all that fond of, in control of their own destiny. Because if the Bucs win their last 2 games, they will win the NFC South regardless of what Carolina does this week against Seattle. And that's because that would involve beating Carolina and tying them at the worst at 9-8, and we would win on that common games tiebreaker I talked about last week. So it's all right there still in front of them, and that's the good news.
Which is the good news. And then we want to talk a little bit about the schedule as well. Things are a little different this week. Obviously, we're shooting this a little early. Part of that is that Todd Bowles gave the players Christmas Day off. So he kind of moved everything around this week so that they could have that time with their families, which I think is really great. So restructured the schedule a bit.
And all the other staff members except for the coaches. The coaches are going to get some work in, but that's the whole day off. And that's not usually the way it works. Usually they try to rearrange the daily schedule to give them time at home with their families, but this time they get the whole day. But that means practice on Tuesday.
It does, which is great. So now let's dive a little bit into that Panthers game and what happened. We're going to start from the offensive side of things. We definitely did see, in my opinion, a more true Baker game in terms of especially with his legs after we had missed that for a bit.
Well, I think just his ability, the improvisation skills, when he is under duress, to be able to run, to get the first down, and even the 26-yarder that he had in the fourth quarter kind of set up that final drive. But his awareness, the vision to be able to see the lanes, hit it, and then he was really smart kind of in getting out of bounds, not taking those excessive hits, but just carried the offense on his back, just what his ability means and how that rallies the offense too.
Yeah, I thought it was great to see. It's so important for this offense, we've come to realize, particularly like we mentioned on those third downs. And I just am so impressed. I saw his yards per carry are higher than any other quarterback with at least 40 carries this season. And so I thought that was really great to see the efficiency with which he's done that. To me, what really stood out was we talked about Mike Evans coming back last week and how he had so many yards, and it was amazing to see. But to me, what we saw was almost the part of Mike Evans that's the most important to this team, and that's Mike Evans in the red zone. We saw that beautiful touchdown pass to him, and that is, I think, what this team has missed even more potentially than his many, many yards he's gotten every other year of his career. He is such an amazing red zone threat. He's such a big target, and he's going to be so much bigger than 99% of those DBs you try to put on him. And just to see the confidence that Baker has, I mean, that was good coverage. He was not, it's not like he was sitting there wide open.
Nothing he could do.
And like we always say, 50-50 balls are not 50-50 when Mike Evans is involved. And so I think that's a huge asset to the red zone offense in the these final weeks here that are going to be
Yeah.
oh so important.
Well, and Baker went right back to him the next time we got down to the 1 yard line. Didn't work that time, but he went to him twice, and the second one drew a pass interference call, so it was another first down at the 1. So he was still impacting the game even when he didn't catch the ball.
I saw a tweet that I really enjoyed from Mina Kimes about that play. Is that, you know, the meme where the lady's sort of like, like she goes through all the emotions. It was like back shoulder end zone fade, like, and then it was like, but to Mike Evans, like, and I thought that was really a great way of describing it. I know also there were some other bright spots offensively that came in the form of special teams for the guys this game.
Yeah, for the most part, special teams were a winning edge for the Buccaneers in that game, which has happened occasionally throughout this season, which has been nice to see. First of all, Cam Justin, our two longest kickoff returns of the season so far, as you see. I mean, he's coming close to breaking that. 44 and 39 yards. Both of those returns set up shorter scoring drives and 10 points for the Buccaneers. And obviously, Chase McLaughlin hit another 50-yard field goal. He's made all 11 of his tries from that range this year, and 11 straight 50-plus yard makes in a row in a single season. That's the first time that's ever happened in NFL history. So that's obviously the good part.
Yes.
Now, the bad part was the very last special teams play for the Buccaneers, and I asked Coach Bowles about this yesterday. I asked him, was that just a really well-executed kickoff? Because the Panthers are known for that. They're very good at kickoffs. They've held a lot of teams back, and they try to. The perfect kickoff is one that lands in the end zone, in the landing zone, and goes in the end zone for the 20-yard touchback. Well, that led to us getting some nice Cam Johnson returns, but on that last one, it went over Sean Tucker's head, landed at about the 2, and then went in the end zone. So when you're facing your last drive, you're starting at your 20, and then there's a penalty on John Bullock, and you're starting at your 10. That's a bad sequence right now.
Tough.
And Coach Bowles said he would like to have seen Sean Tucker try to catch that ball.
Yep, that makes sense. All right, we are going to take a quick break. We come back, we're going to break down that defensive side of things against the Panthers right after this. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Brianna Dix here. We just talked about the offensive side of things from that Panthers game. Now let's dive a little bit into defense. I wanted to talk a bit about SirVocea Dennis for 2 reasons. 1, he had a good game. 2, I have to do a shameless plug that he came on my show on Monday. That is the requirement, is for my shamelessness on this show. So SirVocea came on the show, but sack and a half for him, and his first game with multiple QB hits. And I felt like, to my eyes, it looked like one of his better performances, and I was able to ask him about that, and he also agreed and confirmed, which I thought was great. And Coach Bowles said a similar thing when I talked to him this week as well. So excited to see a guy like SirVocea kind of come into his own at a good time towards the end of the season, knowing a lot got put on him this year from a mental side of what we always hear from everybody. Man, Coach Bowles' defense, that's a lot to learn. It's a lot to be the one having to communicate it, call it, make all of the decisions. And he missed a lot of time due to injury in his career. And so to really have the consistency of being out there a little bit more this year. So I wanted to hear a little bit from him from the show where he talked about the evolution for him mentally this year as well, and why he's kind of thriving at the right time towards the end of this season.
Week 1, Boston, I would say week 1 through week 4, I was drowning. You know, it was just a lot I was trying to get done. But after that, I kind of calmed the waters and, you know, went to my game. Went to, you know, communicating the way I like to. Went to doing the things that, you know, kind of benefited me and the defense. So week 1, Voss he was
struggling a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But now I see it for what it is, and, you know, how the game is played and how people try to attack us. And that kind of helps me out with the game a little bit more.
Yeah, so just really cool to hear him talk about that. And also, you know, we got into his friendship with Elijah Cansey and what it's been like, you know, missing him this year. And also he told a really fun story about how he ended up at Pitt. It's a very cool recruitment story. So I just wanted to tell everyone to make sure they go check that out on Buccaneers YouTube. But great to see him kind of coming into his own at the right time. And then some other guys that have been asked to step up in some big ways are those rookie corners.
So Jacob Parrish, Benjamin Morrison, both had key pass breakups. So Jacob Parrish had the one in the end zone against Hetero McMillan, mirrored the route, physicality, and then just the play later, Benjamin Morrison also had one against McMillan, kind of great stab, was able to get his eyes back to the quarterback, disrupt the catch window. He did allow that big gain, kind of letting Jalen Coker get over the top of him later in the game that Todd Bowles noted, but I think just overall sticky coverage by first-year players.
I think that was a great sign for their development and just the potential moving forward, that you don't want injuries, but sometimes they can end up meaning that guys get some key reps at some key times and learn to grow as well. I know that Levante was a guy that I felt like every few minutes in the game, I was seeing a tweet that was like, a new milestone by Levante, a new this, which I feel like he's been playing long enough. That's just now every week what we end up
Cervase
seeing.
is in his 3rd season, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And you talked about 2 rookie cornerbacks, so that's 5 combined seasons. Mr. David has 14 now.
A few more than
like
that.
3 times as many
lot.
as all of them combined. So we've obviously mentioned Levante David milestones
A lot.
many times
many
through the
times.
years. But this is kind of cool because, first of all, he led the team with 10 tackles, also had a sack. By the way, they eventually changed that sack and did not split it with.
Oh, yeah.
So they each ended up with 1. He had a sack. He's had at least 3 sacks in each of the last 4 years, as that's kind of late career kind of come back into his game. He surpassed 100 tackles. He leads the team, has 105. It's the 12th time in 14 seasons that he has surpassed 100 tackles, and that is 3rd most in the NFL behind Bobby Wagner and London Fletcher since 2000. And he surpassed 1,700 tackles in that game.
Wow.
And there's only 2 Buccaneers who have ever done that, and I bet you can name the other one.
Derek Brooks. Yeah, that was like, it feels so obvious. I hope.
Yeah. I mean, it's Levante. You know, you never want to try to compare a guy head to head against a guy that's already in the Hall of Fame. But we obviously feel like Levante's a Hall of Famer, and even this late in his career, he's still turning in some vintage games like that. So.
I would agree with that. Yeah, it's just so cool to still see him getting some of these milestones and feathers in his cap, because we know at this point, like, we're all rooting for that Hall of Fame bid, and any more numbers and stats you can get for that guy. I mean, we saw how much that mattered for getting Rondé in eventually. It was just when you can show that you've done things that other people haven't done, you're up there with everyone else that's done what you've done is in the Hall of Fame. I think that's
I didn't even talk about, he's got numbers that rival the best in terms of tackles for loss, forced fumbles, fumbles, recoveries. You put it all together, it's an incredible resume.
Mastered the peanut punch,
Yes, that's very true. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to move ahead to look ahead to this next upcoming game against Miami right after this. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Brianna Dix here. All right, so we have moved that Panthers game behind us. We are now looking ahead to this Dolphins game. Very important, and you know, it's interesting whenever a team like the Dolphins has gone through what they've gone through, they're now making some changes because of that it is not going to be Tua as the quarterback, that they have made a decision to go with someone else. And so that's always an interesting wrinkle at this point, to be facing someone you don't have a lot of tape on.
Yes, Quinn Ewers, who has had a lone start for Miami. He was 20 of 30 for 260 yards, 2 interceptions, but he kind of has that quick release. He could throw from a variety of arm angles without sacrificing velocity. He isn't the most mobile quarterback, so kind of has limitations as a play extender, but kind of more that drop back passer, as Todd Bowles said, but really can have touch to all areas of the field. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bucs defense are able to capitalize with.
So it sounds like quick release and touch is kind of why he works in a Mike McDaniel offense.
Yeah, I'd say that sounds like that actually would work pretty well, and especially knowing that they have, talking about quick, they've got some quickness on that offense. That is what they thrive in, is having weapons that are able to make a lot of things happen. And
I can name one.
I would say one of them in particular is having a sneaky good season.
Yeah, Devon Achane. I think he's probably more popular amongst fantasy football players because he's just
like
so
my
consistent.
husband.
Yeah, he just produces so consistently. But I don't think I was aware until I started looking at the numbers this week that he has more than 1,700 yards from scrimmage this year. He's 5th in the NFL in that category. He's 3rd in rushing yards with 1,267. And probably the most telling stat about him, and this has been true throughout his career, is that he's averaging nearly 5.8 yards per carry, which is number 1 in the NFL amongst qualifying players. So he's a big play waiting to happen. And he catches a lot of passes. You just don't want to see him get the ball out in space because he will make people miss and then he will run away from you.
Yeah, which not ideal for sure. You know, and so of course their offense is kind of what the Dolphins have been known for, especially with Mike McDaniels and seeing some of these things. But their defense has definitely some playmakers on it, and one I wanted to highlight was Bradley Chubb. He is now their top rusher now that they have traded away Phillips. And there was speculation of whether or not they were going to trade Chubb away or not, but just with contract stuff, he ended up sticking with them, and it made a lot of sense because of that. And then he really has thrived. I mean, it's interesting. He's coming off a missed year due to an ACL, and you just always wonder how guys like him are going to come back from that, and looks like he's just fine. Looks like he came back from that just fine. So he is leading them with 6.5 sacks, which is his most in a season since 2020. So he is now thriving in this kind of leading rusher role that he has. And then also, he's their Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. So just wanted to shout him out for that.
I just heard, now remember, this guy was a really high draft pick some years ago.
5th overall, I think.
Something like that. And so I heard something from Baker at the podium just a little while ago, and I didn't have a chance to go check on it myself, but he said that Chubb is close to some incentive if he gets 1.5 more sacks. It's like $1 million or something. So I think we're going to have a pretty motivated Bradley Chubb on our hands. He's got 2 games left to get a sack and a half, and I assume that's true. Baker said it at the podium, so that's that's not ideal.
You're looking to get in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully we've got a Pro Bowl left tackle this year again out there, and then
there's some news there too.
Yeah, so
we don't have an injury report yet because even though we had a practice on Tuesday, we don't have to turn an injury report in until tomorrow. And so we don't know exactly what it's going to say, but Coach Bowles said at the podium that Tristan Wirfs, our new Pro Bowler, is dealing with a toe injury, and they'd have to see how he's doing later in the week. So hopefully we have Tristan
Hopefully we have
Wirfs.
him. And then I know that Luke Gedeke definitely going to be motivated after that last game as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how those matchups look. All right, we have one more segment coming up here. We're going to get to some of those numbers for you, and again continue to talk about where this team sits at this point, looking at this next game. So we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Bree Dix here. We have some fun numbers for you to close out our show. You know how we like to do that here with our nerdy numbers.
I thought we were done with that.
Nope, never.
I don't see any graphic.
Never.
And it's
Merry Christmas to Scott with his favorite graphic. So let's talk first next gen stats. What do we have from them this week?
Yeah, I saw a really cool one for Yaya Diaby, and they do these little graphic charts that I'm sure we're going to throw up here that shows kind of how much pressure he was getting. So each of those lines that are green are pressures, and he's coming from a lot of different spots. I notice up there, but he had 9 pressures on 28 pass rush attempts, which is a 32.1% pass rush rate, which is very, very high, by the way. It's his second best ever in a single game. A 32.1%. Look at the get off, 0.83 seconds. It's very fast. The thing is, it's just strange because I looked it up today, he's 6th in the NFL in quarterback pressures among all players. 6th or 7th, I might be blanking on that, but he's right below Myles Garrett. He has 63 and Myles Garrett has 65. Myles Garrett is going to be the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and he has a million sacks. We just, as a team, are getting a good amount of pressure, and it's not translating as often into sacks, and that's been a story all year.
Yeah, Coach Bowles actually talked about that on the show this week, where I asked him about Yaya and the pressuring, and he was like, he is getting back there so often, just not quite able to finish, bring him down, like that last little bit of something. And I also think it's cool to see, maybe having JPP around is going to help a little bit, because I know Yaya mentioned how much JPP's kind of been coaching him up a little bit, adding little nuggets here and there. And then just in general, I kind of forget how little football Yaya had played in some ways compared to the average person coming in. So Servassier on our show talked about how he has seen immense growth in Yaya's mental side of the game, of understanding all of that he was like, his football intelligence has just grown astronomically the more he's been exposed to stuff. So I feel like we are going to see Yaya make that little bit, whether it be from a little extra something from JPP, whether it be from just more time. I feel like he is just, he's right there.
Well, and I think one of the things, too, has been the mobility of quarterbacks, whether it was Bryce Young, whether it was Tyler Shock, but when you have a guy in their ability to extend plays, use their legs, get up, kind of create when those lanes were available, but having a guy like Ewers that isn't exactly the most mobile guy, maybe we'll see an uptick in.
Hopefully so. We can only hope. So I know you also.
We didn't even talk about the fact that Jason Pierre-Paul played his first game since December of 2023, and his first for the Bucs since the 2021 playoffs. He played 12 snaps, Coach Bowles said they kind of used him inside a little bit more, but they're hoping for some more opportunities to work him from the outside.
Well, and I think,
forward.
man, how well did that get worked out timing-wise of having him in there when both Anthony Nelson and Hassan Reddick went down mid-game? That suddenly that looked like kind of a genius move. That was the day he was available. And then briefly, I know we wanted to talk about kind of how many close games the Bucs have had this year.
So the Bucs have now played 7 games that were decided by 3 points or fewer, which is tied for our most in any season with the 1979 team.
Wow.
That's a lot. Only Denver has played more games, and only Denver and Carolina have won more games by 3 points or less, because going into that game, both the Bucs and Carolina were 5-1 in 3-point games. So they're now 6-1, and we're 5-2, and our 2 losses have come in the last 2 weeks. So that's not ideal, but generally this team has been able to make the plays at the end that they needed to. Not recently.
Yeah.
But we've shown that we can, so hopefully that comes back here in the
these last
2
few weeks. All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this edition of Bucs Insider. Thanks so much for being with us. Have a great rest of your holiday week. We'll see you next time.